and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to be riding on the 2017 GSXR 1000R, and we're going to be doing a first ride impressions. And there's a few caveats that I need to put in. One, despite my usual first ride impression review, which are normally the very first time that I've ever sat on the bike and ridden it, this is not my first time sitting on this bike or riding it. And the second caveat, which is tied to that, is that this is my own personal bike. I have purchased this bike with my own money. I no longer have the XSR 900, and this is my personal motorcycle steed, if you will. And so, as such, I have ridden it a couple times on the road to test it, and I've also ridden it one day on the track as well. So I've gotten a little bit familiar with it. So it's not an unadulterated first ride impressions, so I apologize for that. However, I am not going to be taking it any easier on the bike, and I will tell you what I think and how this motorcycle makes me feel when you ride it, particularly on the roads. So let's get started with ergonomics. First thing you notice, you are quite tucked up. Your legs are very sporty and high. Your arms are way down in front of you, and it's not terribly uncomfortable, but it is very sporty. I would say that it's slightly more sporty than the BMW S1000R, in that I think you have to lean a little bit further. I think it's a longer distance between the seat and the bars. It feels like it's a little bit more stretched out. You feel like you get a little bit more space to reach, and that makes it feel like you've got a little bit more kind of forward direction to your body travel. The feeling of vibiness that I mentioned on the S1000 single R and double R is absolutely there. This is a straightforward, you are getting the vibiness through the bars. It does translate much like it does on the BMW S1000 double R into a feeling of excitement, not a feeling of annoyance. But it's something to note, you are going to have some vibraty bars. And fair enough, I'm in second gear, I could be shifting up. And it does, I think shifting up on this bike actually helps the vibes a little bit more than it did on the BMW. But not massively so. It's still relatively vibey. And as I've been told by my friends in the comments down below, that's what I should expect whenever I move to a straight inline 4. Which is fair enough. I accept that. But there's definitely vibiness. The overall tucked upness of the legs feels nice. It feels like you're locked into the bike pretty well. You do need some tank grips, so I've got some tank grips installed on here. And interestingly enough, when you're on the track, the typical position for the tank grips is fine, but when you're on the street, it's actually slightly lower down than on the tank itself. It's actually on the little plastic side fairings that you need a little bit more grip, just due to the way that my particular legs sit in there. So just something to bear in mind if you're planning on getting this for street riding. You should consider getting some tank grips, and possibly ordering some to cut order tank grips, I think, so that you can place them exactly where you want and cut them to the shape and size that you want, because the tank itself is nice, and when you're on track and you're kind of a bit further back in the seat, it kind of works well, but when you're on the street and a little bit more forward in the seat, it doesn't seem to make as much sense where it where the tank grips are. Oh, okay, well, thank you. Guess that's Argo. Overall look and feel of the quality of the machine, I think it's good. I think I really like the look of this triple clamp. I really like the gold forks as well. I think that the dash is definitely, you know, it's a bit dated in terms of its look. It's probably due a revamp, but it tells you everything you need to know. It gives you all the information there. Can be a bit cluttered until you get used to it, but once you're used to it, it's totally fine. There's no issues. Let's talk a little bit about how it feels riding around town. As you can see here, we are stuck behind a red light. I'm in B mode for town driving, and or riding, I should say. The reason for that is because, and it's even in B mode. If you look here, in a moment I'm going to show you. Well, actually it's doing pretty good now. You can get a bit jerky on the throttle in first gear, particularly in A mode, and it's just a little lungy, like it just kind of pulls you a little bit. So that can be slightly annoying. However, in B mode it's not as bad. In A mode you notice it a bit more. So let's talk quick shifter, because that's a big plus on the BMW. So we're in first gear, 30 miles an hour, second gear, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. And in terms of feel, let's go back down, sixth, fifth, fourth, third, second, and back up to third. In terms of feel, it's got a really nice positive feel. It's kind of like in between the BMW and the Triumph Street Triple. The Triumph Street Triple feels all mechanical, like clunk, throw it in, you feel the gearbox, you know, really suffering beneath you, and it's a very mechanical feel. The BMW is a very detached electronic. You push the button and the computer decides that it's going to shift for you. And this is somewhere in between. This has got that initial, you've pushed the button, but then kind of past that, whilst the computer is doing its thinking, you kind of feel it do the clunk. And so it feels like a really nice mix of mechanical firmness with electronic smoothness. Now, it's certainly not as smooth or refined as the BMW. There are times whenever it will get out of shape slightly. I've had it on track, especially. I've had it do a couple of weird things where there's a little bit of a hesitation as it's shifting up, and that might be me just not giving enough consistent positive input. But it's just something to bear in mind if you're looking at these bikes. But I would say between the two of them, for feel, I prefer the Suzuki in terms of probably outright smoothness and you know, perfection. I would say the BMW is probably going to have the slight upper hand in regards to the quick shifter action, but I do prefer the feel of this Suzuki much more. It feels like you're actually on a machine doing things that you would do with a machine, which I quite like. Now, in terms of how it feels around town, driving nice and slow, it's really smooth, you know. It's not I think it rides a little bit smoother than the BMW, the S1000RR. Not as smooth as the single R. That thing is just like crazy, ridiculously smooth to the point where it just feels like it doesn't have any character. But this is nice and smooth, more smooth than the BMW for sure. Around slow town speeds, riding. Sorry, I should say. Why do I keep saying driving? Jesus, are you even a real biker? So yeah, slow speed stuff around town I quite like. It's you know, it is definitely leaned forward. You don't want to be doing stop and go traffic for hours on end, but it is comfortable. Certainly not uncomfortable, but I would say in terms of overall comfort, I think the BMW S1000RR is just slightly more comfortable than this. If you were going to be doing touring, obviously you've got things like the heated grips on the BMW, etc. So there's creature comforts there, the cruise control that you have. But in terms of body ergonomics comfort, I think they're very similar. I think the BMW might just have a slightly bit more comfort to the ergonomics, and I think that's just because this feels a little bit more stretched out, which when you're on track it's really nice because you can actually, you know, properly get back in the seat on this and really get into a great tuck and a good body position, which I quite like. So it's roomy, and I think if you're a taller person you might really like this in terms of the length that you can kind of scooch back into the seat. But for me, you know, I'm kind of short. I'm about 5'10", and it definitely feels like I'm a little bit more stretched out than I was on the BMW. Now we will soon start to talk about things such as power delivery here in a moment, but it's kind of hard to talk about power delivery when you're in this kind of traffic. So yeah, what shall we talk about here? Mirrors? Yeah, I can see the guy that I passed in the BMW behind me. He's not particularly happy. I'm sorry. Mirrors are good, you know, you got to tuck your arms in, fine. I mean, I'm a rider who believes that if you need mirrors, you're going too slow. Everything should be coming towards you, not the other way around. All right, let's see if we can do a little bit of a feeling of the power and how that comes on. So around town it feels really docile actually. You know, you can feel that it's a big bike, but you don't really feel like it's crazy. So the very first time I took this bike out on the road, and I did a couple of twisties, and I did a few pulls at speed, and I got off, and I said to myself, you know, I think I might have made a mistake. I think this bike might be a bit too much. And then I got back on it and did it again, and I was like, ah, this is awesome. It's such an interesting bike, you know. It doesn't have a crazy power band, in that, like, there is power from the bottom to the top. It's not like you don't have power there. You definitely have power, but what you probably can't see in the video is that when you get it up into the 8-9K, it just takes off even more. And you think, you know, coming from the bikes that I've ridden, 8 or 9K, you're past your peak, you're going to be going down from there. Now that's when this thing is in its sweet spot. That's when it really sings. And it rips. It absolutely rips on the top end, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. So, steering behavior, tip-in behavior, let's talk about that for a bit. This bike, from when I bought it, I've only ridden it one time, and it came essentially as stock. I think the previous owner hadn't really changed anything in terms of suspension. When I took it to my track day, which was just a couple days after I bought it, I got Colin at 100% suspension to set it up for me, and he's great. He's always done a fantastic job on my bikes at the track, and just really enhances the feel. So I will be referring to the set up suspension, because that really does change the way this bike handles and feels. I'll be referring to that. So if you get this bike and you want to see how it feels after it's been set up, that's what we'll talk about. So it wants to turn in. It absolutely wants to turn in, and it's more eager. It's way more eager than the BMW S1000 double R. That was relatively eager to turn in. This definitely wants to turn in. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's super fast steering, but it's definitely more eager than the BMW. I think it's probably on par with the turn-in feel of the Triumph Speed Triple, although that had an interesting thing on the Speed Triple where if you were going slow it dipped in crazy fast, and if you were going fast it stabilized a bit and it got really kind of a little bit more neutral in terms of the turn-in. This feels pretty eager, pretty even actually across the different speeds. It feels relatively eager kind of at all speeds to dip in to the corner, and I like that. I like a bike that you're not fighting, that is kind of running with you. It's not running too far ahead of you either, which is good. Stuff like this. This bike is stupid fast. The power when it comes in is just it's relentless. It just doesn't stop, and it doesn't even feel like you're going fast. The only way you can tell that you're going fast is by listening to the sound, because the bike, the way the ergonomics and the aerodynamics are, you can't tell. You can't tell that you're going 170 miles an hour. You know, at the track the other day when I was there, I looked down, it's like 165 on the speedo, which I know is not 100% accurate, but genuinely it felt like I was going 80. It was it's just built to do those types of speeds, and you know, that's really the point of why I've purchased this machine, which I'm going to make another video about why I've gone ahead and spent my hard-earned money on this particular bike. But in terms of first ride impressions, it's such a powerful beast, and the way the power is on the BMW, the S1000RR, the power is very smooth. It delivers. It's super powerful, but it's delivered in a very smooth way. Whereas this, you feel like you're on a raging bull. It's pretty amazing how much power this thing. It lets you know that it has it. You know, it's not like trying to hide any of that. I'm gonna go ahead and switch this over into A mode. Turn TC down a little bit. I'll switch this over to A mode. There we go. Alrighty. We'll just let some of these cars go by, and then we're just going to have a quick little bit of fun there. Three-wheeler. Alrighty. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, you can't even touch it on the street. Like there's this, that's first gear and I'm already doing illegal speeds, you know. You can't tap into what this thing is capable of on the street. You've got to take it to a track. You've got to get it out somewhere where you can actually stretch its legs properly, and it's amazing. It's built for that. It's not bad on the street. It's really good, and it's a lot of fun on the street. But you've got to have a lot of self-control. You can't be wailing on it, otherwise you will end up in the middle of a roundabout or the side of someone's van, and you will regret it. The bike is just so incredibly capable. Yeah. I was telling a friend of mine, I compare this, if I'm comparing the power delivery of the BMW, the S1000R to this, I compare it to be, the BMW is like this amazing Japanese set of steak knives, and this is a meat saw. They both cut the meat. You can hack through a cow with them, but one lets you know that it's gonna have a really bloody, messy, gory time of it, and the other one's gonna be like, eh, I'm gonna button up my shirt and pull out my napkin and I'm gonna deliver my power in a nice, proper way. And being the Texas boy that I am, I'm totally fine with the meat saw approach. The brakes are quite good. The brakes feel powerful at first, and again, part of this is because it's not a brand new bike, so I'm still getting used to it. But at first they didn't feel quite as sharp. Like the initial bite was not quite as sharp as I was expecting it to be. But they are quite powerful. What are my overall thoughts, my overall impressions of this motorcycle? It's a raw, super crazy powerful, but just incredibly well handling machine. You know, it's so much better than I am or ever will be, that it's a wonderful machine to be able to go on the street for an enjoyable ride like this, but really to take it to the track and to know that the only thing holding you back is you. The machine is more than capable, and you just got to get your skills in order to actually be able to tap into what this machine can do. So there you have it, folks. That is my first ride impressions of my very own GSXR 1000R Suzuki Superbike. If you have enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up. And if you have any thoughts or comments, leave them down below. And if you would like to see more content around this and possibly other motorcycles, please hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for some future content. And now I'm going to go finish my ride. Wish me luck.